But it looks as if usually government waits for predictions from NIMET and the Hydrological Service to begin to move and enlighten the people. What about before these predictions come in? Anambra State,
on
for instance,
normal
the terrain in Anambra
basis
is naturally quickly washed away. Quickly. Don't get me wrong. So what are there measures being put in place to ensure that we don't wait for the predictions? Preemptive measures.
No, there are measures. All the measures have been put in place. You know, we have the environmental laws there, and we're enforcing it. When we talk of prediction, when they give the prediction, what we do is we go ahead to educate them and sensitize them. When it comes to other measures, the environmental measures we are taking, they are making sure the environmental defaulters are prosecuted and also clearing the drainages. All those are the measures we are putting in place.
Okay, back to you, sir. Delta. Flooding and heavy rainfall also leads to erosion. Have there been any displaced communities as a result of erosion?
Yes and no. How do I mean? Of course, you recall that even before 2012, when the massive flooding occurred, there have been a lot of issues of erosion on account of the soil type and on account of the several rivers that crisscross these coastal areas, particularly in Delta State, and then possibly leading up to places in Bayelsa. But why I said that no community has been sacked at the moment is that sometimes you may have one house and another one, and then you have what may look like normal flooding. And of course, you know that these areas we're talking about, these individuals survive over time. Like if you are a fisherman and you live very, very close to the water, it's like the issue of mining, whether artisanal mining or organized form of mining. Individuals know that sometimes whatever they are doing, the mining, either coal mining, may collapse. But that does not still stop them to continue to mine because they need to survive. They believe that they must take this risk. And so those who are farming along these coastal areas, whether those who grow sugarcane, those who grow some of those things that survive on top of water, will somehow naturally continue to operate in that environment.
We need to take the phone call. Hello? Okay, we lost Uche calling from Delta. All right, go ahead.
So even when you come to a place like Asaba, you see sometimes like the Ogwashuku Ueli Road, the other about 2 months ago, was almost washed off by the gully. But the governor intervened within 3 days or so. Even when that particular road was under construction and had been given to a construction company by the former administration, we didn't have to wait for the company to just come and begin to do that because of its effects. So what the governor did then was to direct the direct labor agency to immediately go and carry out a remedial, intervention in that particular spot. So you go to certain communities, you see these effects of erosion, but we are looking at why we sensitize them, and then we're also taking steps to gradually address it, like what we are doing in Asaba and parts of some other communities in the lower part of the Niger. We've been able, like issue of management, that in the case that it gets to where it becomes catastrophic, that where life will have to come in, that immediately, without wasting time, we really have been able to put in place measures to take them away. But human being, because it has not gotten to that level, even if you sensitize individuals from here to Jericho, because their survival is often dependent on the activities within these coastal areas, you are not going to be able to just say, get out of this place. And even when you do, given the lean resources available to different governments, is it going to be very possible for you to just say, please leave here, stop farming here, I will give you another farm in this place? Whose farm are you going to give to that person? So it's a question of being able to just reduce the issue of victims when it occurs.
Can you just hold your thoughts? Let's take this call. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good day.
Good morning.
Poms?
Is that Poms?
Good day, good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make some clarification with Charles for Delta State.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I live in Warri. Presently I'm in Lagos, but I live in Warri. And I live very close to the government house in Warri. There is the government office annex in Warri. and I live very close to that place. Now, the government constructed its drainage from within the government office complex. The outlet is the normal road just by a school. We've protested because whenever it rains heavily, the government complex is a huge project. All the waters are emptied down to the road. And whenever that happens, the students in the schools can access their school easily. Then the houses just after the government house, some of them are flooded. If you go there today, what you see is government-created chaos. Because what happens is all the water from that area flow into the low houses in that place. So you see people building up blocks. About 3 weeks ago, the government sent some people to come and look at the place. But I want to plead with Charles, using this medium, that it is necessary that the government do it almost immediately. Because it's just about a stretch of about 300 meters or thereabouts to a river just by the bridge there. And I don't think it's going to cost the government any much money to address that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Poms. Thank you.
I think I like the view expressed by Poms. The government is not unmindful of the issues he has raised. If you go to Warri, even when you come to Asaba, because some of these areas are in the lower plains, you discover that those who have money and individuals find it easier to sandfill and raise the level of either their houses or their compound far above this water level. And you know that the government cannot begin to sandfill everywhere and every compound. But what he said is true in terms of water flowing out from different places, whether some of those high plains, and of course, you know, water must always find its level. But what the government is doing, because these structures is also talking about were not also built in the last 1 or 2 years. What the government is doing, like in the case of Asaba and the case of Warri, is to first of all take a look at the drains. If you go to a place like Ole now in Delta Central, one of the roads that have been constructed, Kefas Road, you will see a new drainage built in such a way that is wider than the usual to be able to take in water coming from the adjoining streets. The same, you also heard that he said government sent people in about 3 weeks ago to inspect, which means government is very much aware of the issues he has raised. In Asaba, government is also doing the same thing. Large drains are being built. The essence is that at the end of the day, with the establishment of the Capital Territory Development Authority, they'll be able to manage it in such a way, working with the Ministry of Environment, to ensure that this water that flows from the street, which is different from the one from Lado Dam or from the River Niger, but the one that occurs on account of a large and heavy rainfall, that we're able to now empty it into the River Niger. So all these is actually being done, but of course, you know, you can't just tackle it one day to say that places will not be flooded, because it's a question of management.
Mr. Beckley, when you talked earlier, you mentioned the issue of dam. It was Alera that asked a question about dams. Kogi State, for instance, was amongst the states that were worst hit in 2012, at Ibaji, to be precise. And someone's asking a question. Let me see if I can, yes. Engineer Christopher says, what efforts are being made to take care of towns like Ibaji in Kogi State? Towns that have been affected by flash floods already. Benue, a town in Benue, for instance, had about 100 houses submerged. Kaduna had about 60 houses or thereabouts submerged. There have been flash floods in Katsina, where quite a number of houses have been submerged. Adamawa and Kogi. So what's being done? Are there plans to build new dams or to expand the dams that they are already?
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. Indeed, there are plans to construct more dams because this is a means of harvesting these rainwaters, these flood waters, for the various uses for man. Now, as a result of the experience of 2012, some locations have been identified, you know, along the Benue down to the Delta, where dams should be constructed. As a matter of fact, after the event of 2012, there was a colloquium where discussions were made over the issues and the way to go forward on this. And so during that period, these sites were identified, and the area of down the delta, or Onitsha, for example, is one area that was identified as a place where an extra dam could be constructed. Indeed, in order to be able to control the flow of the water that comes from upstream, that's in Hausa location, up north, Adamawa State, is one very critical dam, buffer dam, which design has been made for its construction. And I want to believe that by what the permanent secretary of the Prime Minister of Water is saying now, between 24, 36 months, that dam would have been constructed. And if that is done, it will go a long way in containing the water that comes from the Cameroons, which will also have effect on the water that gets downstream. So if that is done, and with other dams that are being proposed down that axis, including the dredging of the river Benue, which has been contracted out at the moment, and which I believe will take place any moment from now, and increase the capacity of the flow of the water from upstream, all of these put together will enable a very sound control and management of the water, to the extent that it will hardly have any devastating effect downstream, and even the area that we have mentioned here now in Kogi State.